I can see some movement around there, which means we are right in the middle of. So.
And the executive of UNAA UK. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you to the 2025 convention, convened under the theme, Restoring the Dignity of Humanity through Building an Equitable, Inclusive, and Compassionate Society. There's an addendum to that because Pio is not going to speak exactly on this topic, but he's going to speak something that we'll all enjoy. However, this theme is both timely and imperative in an age where global societies grapple with widening inequalities, fractured communities, and erosion of compassion in public and private life. The task of restoring human dignity cannot be postponed. It has to be now. We need to talk about it now. Our gathering here is therefore more than ceremonial. It is a deliberate call to critical reflection, meaningful dialogue, and collaborative action. I am very, very honored to have His Excellency Peter Obi as the keynote speaker. And we also have Professor David Mba, who will be speaking to us tomorrow. I am glad that we have these two giants in our midst. And I think we have to pay very careful attention to every discussion that is held today, tomorrow, because this starts a new chapter for us, UNAA UK. We aim to do a lot of things, but we need to hear also how we can get there. UNAA UK have come to stay. What we do as an organization is important. The words of Peter Obi and the Vice Chancellor, what they have to tell us today and tomorrow is very imperative in shaping the future that we want.
sincerely thank you. They should learn a lot from you by interaction, by your questions, so you will know. I know I was given a topic which says the dignity of restoring the dignity of
humanity
in our nation, is it?
Yeah.
In our national development. It's a very broad topic. First thing you ask when we talk about dignity of a person or humanity, what are we talking about? What do we do as a society to be able to restore people's dignity? Because we're talking about character, behavior, respect, have, of course, and when I was coming here, just this morning, something happened at the airport. And somebody said to me, I said, that's exactly what I'm going to talk today. So you can see the behaviors of these people. And everything. We're going to talk about dignity, behavior, character of people, and everything. And restoring and building a nation. What are the ingredients that makes difference in one nation having that dignity and not? In our country today, because I have to go back to Nigeria, is a critical component that can help development. And what is the foundation of that dignity? Number one is education. Just by having an educated mind, God always said, the more educated a society is, the more developed. You need to invest in education. You need to have a system where there's law and order. You live in the Western world, and I'm sure you, they don't have better weather than we have. We definitely have more better weather than here, and I'm sure. We have better food. Our environment, everything. Go to Birmingham station now. I can't just push everybody down and say, like they will do in Nigeria, you know who I am. Nobody wants to know who you are. They just know you as one of those who wants to use the train. You have to behave. Somebody wants to use the train. I entered the train while I was coming here, the seats were reserved. So it's not just that I sit down in one place and say, somebody says, oh, it's my seat. Say, who are you? You know who I am. The seats are reserved. So it's a simple thing when we talk about dignity. And in order to have that, which is said is rule of law and order in the system, is what helps when we talk about human dignity and development. The rule of law, orderliness contribute more in the GDP of the Western world than fact number one. Because I'm sure if there's anything, if I enter contract with Davis University and they fail, I can go to court. And the court can interpret and do the right thing. If I decide to go to extreme and say, people beat my wife, she will go to court. By the time he calls police, they know where I will be before they start even asking me questions. But if I do it in Nigeria, when police come, I say, this woman has been in problem and ask me, police will even arrest her. Because soon they know that, if I call my village and I say that, if this woman hospitals that look after Nigeria. And then somebody went to make us hospital. And somebody asked me about politics in Nigeria, about new energy chairman, about what party I'm contesting, and everything. I said, that's what I'm trying to do. The World Bank has just said that Nigeria, the latest report which we go, that the poverty rate in Nigeria has increased to over 1.9 million people living in poverty. That is more than 50% of the population. But instead of that being the topic, we are still talking about INEC chairman. We are still talking about the white film contest. Like I told the pharmaceutical Nigerian Association of America, we invited me 3 weeks ago. I want me to talk about artificial intelligence. And I said to them, people don't know where I'm coming from. You know where I'm coming from. You won't be asking about that. We're still talking about how to have basic things. I told about self-confidence. I told you a story that once we were talking about power. When I was governor, I was a member of Jordan's Economic Council. I was the only governor, the only person in the government that said, Peter, you must join my council. And we're talking about power, no electricity, no this. I'm not going to get into government. I said, we are talking about, we have coal, which we have not used very well. We have this, I say, nuclear power. This is like a problem in Japan. But as sophisticated as they are. So I told him, I said, artificial intelligence is good. It's something we need to embrace. You don't have 20 million people out of school. Yeah. Basic education. Yeah. I don't know artificial intelligence. So let's start with that. And that's why I told you that let's discuss that. Today, as a country, we have the highest number of people living in poverty. We have the highest number of out-of-school children. Over 20 million. We have overtaken countries like India in infant mortality. India is 7 times our population. But we were overtaking them in infant mortality. We used to be the biggest country in Africa in terms of GDP. Today, we are number 5 and 6. I can go on and on. We are one of the most insecure places on the surface of the earth. We are one of the hungriest places today among the 20 most hungriest places. Last night, I'm telling somebody that the things you see and listen to are pains you. A country like Ukraine is at war. And Ukraine donated grain to Nigeria to fight hunger. The entire Ukraine have 25% more in terms of land size, just another Nigeria. Ukraine is about 600,000 square kilometers, the entire Ukraine. And we're about 900 and something. And they had war. Lastly, they gave us grain to fight. That's that topic. That's what we should be discussing. What brought us to this? What is wrong with us? Why are we not producing? Obviously, Nigeria remains one of the, I don't know how to say, in terms of potential, a nation in the country, in the entire world. Just like Africa is. We have all the natural resources. that can make any nation great. We have our population is huge. We have the vast land. 60% of our arable land is not cultivated. But we're hungry. Youth. What you hear now is the people telling you about criminality, which is making most of you not to even come home. But I'll tell you, our problem is poverty. That's why because you have large pool of youth unemployment that are not being supported in any way to do anything. Didn't go to school. None of you here can go and live in the bush. Because you've been educated, you've been exposed. You then take you to the bush, you need to pay, you come out. People live there because they never had education, nobody cared about them and everything. So, we should be looking at what is the problem. The problem is very simple. Leadership. Is cumulative effect of leadership failure over the years. Leadership that fail in terms of competence, in terms of capacity, in terms of compassion, character, and commitment. And they use all sorts of things. Also manipulation. In which party are you? Where are you coming from? David saw me and asking one of the lecturers in his university. I said, you are a Yoruba person. I want to call your child now. Is there any way you can buy bread cheaper? So we can go there and buy. Last night I asked a Muslim, is there anywhere Muslims buy bread cheaper? He said no. I said, so why are we not doing the right thing? That is what I urge you to discuss more in this your weekend conversation. How do we change that? And some of you will say to me, no, it's not our topic. Asian countries were changed by their diaspora. This year, I was in school in the late 80s, and call it the 80s and 90s, the middle of the 90s. If you go to any school, major schools here, especially the business schools, from Oxford to Cambridge, to Harvard, to Columbia, they were Indians and Chinese citizens. They've all gone back. I recall when the dean of the Church Business School used to tell us about China. In late 80s, 90s, he kept telling us of the dragon and the dog. We never knew to get to this stage. They were changed by their own people. So we are waiting for you to come and change Nigeria. That will be your discussion. How do we get this to work? How do we get people to be productive? Because all we need is to move the society from its present state by investing in critical areas of development, education, health, and pulling people out of poverty. And how do you pull them out of poverty? By changing the country from consumption to production. We don't have a country, we have a country that is not productive, that is not contributing anything. So you have a confusion on it. Because your country is not producing anything. We can't even feed ourselves. When we have vast land, it can change the world. And that's what I do. That's what I told you to do. I'm going to do. Take more country like Bangladesh. huge population. Bangladesh sits on 148,600 square kilometers of land. And they produce 50 to 60 million tons of milled rice. Our country, Nigeria, cannot produce 10% of that. When our two biggest states, Niger State at 76.3 and Borno State at 70.8, combined is almost the size of Bangladesh because it's 147 something. And have less population, so they have more space. Both states have a population of less than 17 million. Bangladesh have a population of about 170 million. So 10 times that population, yet they produce it. A tiny country like Netherlands.
Here are several practical questions you could ask.
If you minus what is about 3,000 square kilometers, the agricultural export is about 120 billion euros, which is about 130 billion naira. More than 3 times what we earn for oil. Yet, like I mentioned before, Niger State, our biggest state, is 2.5 times the size of Netherlands. We have biggest insecurity problem we have today is Borno State. Within this and this forest. That is the fantastic that anybody can use. Borno State alone is more than twice the size of Belgium. In fact, it's like this forest that did not grow about 60,000 square kilometers. That is 3 times the size of this year. Say, Prof, I'm telling you from experience. I became governor in my state. We didn't have money for enough money for education. Our schools were like that. There was no computer, there's no buses, there's nothing for our school. But we have an office called Office of Excellence. That more budget than our ministers had. Somebody was not elected, had nothing to do with government. They had a convoy to create confusion. We have advisors to advise. An advisor. And I asked him, what are you going to advise us? You have advisors with full confidence, full office. And I asked him, have you ever seen office of first lady? Of any state in Iraq? No. Even the first lady and the center is a just notion, no office, nothing. Everybody in Nigeria is a fact, as an office, with written of workers, and comfort, move around. So, these are things we should discuss. But rather than discussing most times, we celebrate the same criminality. So if I come to Birmingham, I'm coming to London, I will see Nigerians telling me about those who want houses in London. I made a very good point when I arrived back in They took notes of the so, and I'm happy that he said that all of you are out of the box. That's not a problem. Because everybody knows that Peter will not own a house in Birmingham when he became governor, president, whatever. Tomorrow he comes here and buys a big house, decorates it, calls the bishop to come and bless it, invite you they'll be praising him. Everybody will be saying, wherever they want it, the bishop will pray that wherever the money came from, may God multiply it. This man has just told our money. And everybody knows that is not that everybody is aware where the money came from. We're celebrating. And you see people who say, since you became this, you've not helped me. Since you became that, you've not done everything. And that is the core. That's what I was showing Prof. I showed him what my head of service, how sister wrote. And I showed the president something my head of service wrote where I was going to be. When I became governor for the first 1 year, I was following with everything. And of course, you know, I was removed in office twice as governor. I was thrown out within the first 6 months. When he saw what I said, my head of service wrote a paper I wanted to publish, which I said should not publish it because it will cause me more problem within the political class. But the topic is said stinginess as a great strategy. Because we are calling every day. Because we are the people. Every civil servant. Nobody is happy. And I go to see President Obama and everybody in your state, nobody is happy with you. And here I am trying to fix school. Because the children are not in school. We are number 26, 27. They were Equitable when I started. I have people in my village who celebrated my impeachment. And it's better let man go. Since we came, and if the charity begins at home, nobody has seen anything. And here, what type of thing is this? Something other people become, their village will change. It's not that not change. I didn't even started building any house in this village. We're not even sure what I is in this village. Because once you start building house, you need the place where was that change. We went to see, you cannot see us. We want to do this. That is where the root of what we go should be questioned. So that's what I told you. Let's discuss Nigeria. The question is important, the topic is critical, but it must align to the society. And what I said, I want questions related to the topic. How are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to do this? So what I did now is to open up the topic for us to have a 20 minutes going to end with. And that's where I'm actually meeting from. This year, I read a book. Sure, most of you, some of you might have been privileged to read it. There's a book by Professor Lewis. Professor Lewis is from Hopkins. He wrote a book called Growing Apart. It's a book about Indonesia and Nigeria. How two nations with same trajectory grew apart. So I went to US. I sat down with Professor Lewis. And after he told me the story of Indonesia, I decided to do a tour of Indonesia. So I went to Indonesia. Met from the Minister of Education, Minister of Health, Minister of Planning, Minister of Small Village and Small Businesses. And then went to be the Vice President. I was privileged to sit down in the village to discuss with the most famous professor, the President, who did what is being celebrated today. We don't know. I couldn't wait. I have patience. surprised I came to his village and said, Mr. President, I want to know what you do. And whenever I listen to what you told me and everything, it is very simple. It's not sophisticated. I published all that, showed my picture, stars and everything. Joe Biden lives in the same house. He lived as local government chairman. That was the house he lived as governor. That's the house he lived. He stayed after being president. 10 years. 10 good years. You can't park car inside the compound because you only take 2 vehicles. So I parked on the road. Enter his house. What a good conversation. He still goes to the same small restaurant he used to go when he was local government chairman. When I came, he was not there. So I asked him, they told me about the restaurant that went there. The second thing I did is, all of you know about this province, who wrote Why Nations Fail. He was Nobel Prize winner for economics last year with him. And in accepting the prize, and one of his conversations, he said so many nations know what to do, but refuses to do it. Example of so many nations know what to do to prosper, but refuses to do it. Example of such nation is Nigeria. I spent hours with Dr. Robinson in University of Chicago on the 27th of September, walking around all the week. They continue to resonate in what I believe we can do to get it right. It's not rocket science. We can turn around our country. And all of you, some of you who are here who thinks I'm no longer top of them, it's even worse. Because every day people are coming here to do this stuff. If you have 3 calls from Nigeria now, 4 is problem. So it's even more than 100%. Sometimes if you get called, I'm sure you're never getting called and say, how are you? Let's just talk. Every call has a problem. To reduce it, you must help us to stop the abuse. Please do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Compassion, because if you look at our topic, it talks about compassion. And most times, people see compassion as a personality trait, not a policy tool. So how can we build compassion into everyday governance, in welfare, in budgeting, in social justice? Thank you.
The next question. Particularly for the consciousness and mass mobilization you brought out among the populace, especially the youth in the last election. Mine is a double-barrel question. The first one is, I appreciate the lack of ideology in Nigerian politics. Do you think the switching happens from people to APGA, Labour, and ADC is doing your desire to serve the country any good? I personally think it is confusing your supporters as they see you as dining and whining with the same people who caused the predicament. The second one is, particularly the Southeast. Do you have a view on uniting the southeastern part of Nigeria and creating infrastructure like trains in the southeast?
Without building the human infrastructure, you're wasting everybody's time. Now I see so many big homes, far bigger than what you can get in the Western world, without it being functional. Yeah, people who live there don't think like human beings. You need to invest in human infrastructure. The Asian countries from China to India to this and where track that today, exemplar invested in education, invested in what is driving here is the human infrastructure. The measure of development is not the way people build the way. When I try to do rail in Nigeria, who is building it? Chinese are building. Let's build the people first. Who will build rail? Chinese people invested in their people. These Chinese people, I've been to China when they're building rail. I've been to Indonesia, I went to Egypt, I went to Vietnam. But if you want to do it in Nigeria, because you are not invested in the people, you will bring foreigners. Let's do the right thing. You talk about a lack of ideology. Yes, it's not lack of ideology that is making us, somebody like me, move from one party to the other. No. Yeah, there's no ideology in the first place. The parties are the same thing, and worse, if you go into a system, for example, let me use my living PDP, which is the one that is recent to go into level. I left it because as we were going around talking about doing our primaries, people are busy. In fact, I told them a story today. A Ghanaian politician told me 2 weeks, I was in Ghana 2 weeks ago. They told me that he had a Nigerian friend who always tells him that he goes back to Nigeria during presidential election to be delegate. When you move the whole thing of primary or anything from being voting for the best candidate to transaction, people like you will move on.
Sharing of dollars.
Because I don't have that type of resources to give to people. You cannot be preaching one thing and be doing another thing. I can't come here now and talk to you people and end up in one big hotel. Last night, this my friend told me a story. I said, we're not going to drive to Birmingham. Let's go by train. He says, yeah, I use, whenever I live here, I use all my ground, I use everything. So what are you talking? So he sent me a note and said it's 43 pounds per person. 43.99. I'm on 4. So I said it's better. Just go and come back. This morning, he sent me a note. He said the price has changed. Like 978. And because I didn't buy it last night. I said, wait. Let me go to the station first. So I go to the station. I go to the person who was down. I said, this thing is for 399. He said, no, it's changed. It's actually 82. I said, there is no way. Since 4 of us are going, there must be a group purchase. He said he would try it. He tried it. He came down to 45 each. And another person who is there asked me,
can you join the group?
what is happening? And I said, another person who is there and said, oh Peter, how do you live this life? And I said to him, the difference are 100 pounds. I can tell you what you can do in my village. The people, you will not imagine it. What am I trying to say? If people want to be wasteful, how can I let you for money being from wasteful? Let me take another time. So I arrived at Gatwick yesterday with APs. I'm going this time with Beijing. And people say to me, oh, Peter, I said, anywhere I get cheap price. This kind of because I'm not me. I don't have any loyalty to anyone. My loyalty to prices is good in everything. last week. I told you, I want to speak to former senators, and they put me in this. People want to put me in this one big hotel in Washington. When I came there and everything, I said, hey, what do you mean? He's gone through me before to see the British Prime Minister. Wrong with me. And the person I was going to go would say, hey, we're in this hotel. The car we're going to use. This I said, listen, we're going to walk. I said, we're going to walk. I said, we're going to walk. He said, no. We walk here. We walk here. If they don't walk, I said, listen, it will take us from quarantine here to there about 5 minutes. That's the next time. But let me even tell you, the British Prime Minister did not know how he came. He saw that making a fool of ourselves by paying for one big car to carry us there. And that was what happened. When they saw to the door, he said, bye. I said, how did anybody know how we came? He saw that making a fool of ourselves. You know, we would have just brought one limousine, who would charge us £200. I don't know if they don't know. I said, when we are coming there, we were talking about where to sleep. I told him I stayed in this hotel. He said, no, it's not reaching up. Who asked you where you slept? It was a part of the agenda. The agenda is come here and say, look at my 3 years and Congress Secretary General. It was near me. Where went there to? I didn't really go. He said, stop at the place. Back, I walked that to our office. Nobody was asking us that we came. And these are things we must. So, the same thing goes when people say about party. I cannot bribe people to vote for me to be a candidate. No. That's what I want to change. Because that's how you, who is competent, can get involved. If I contribute that transaction and criminality, you never get involved. Why will you go and give people your money? Cancel it. So the council of your party.
Candidate.
Oh no, you're not candidate. That's it. You are candidate.
Yes.
So the candidate, how many people do you bribe?
0.
Thank you. That's what we do. Unity of Nigeria. Let me tell you, there is no disunity in Nigeria. Along federal lines, around religious lines. It is what we, the politicians, put in place because we are incompetent. So we don't want people to question our competence. We don't want people to question our character. In it, we put
confusion.
I'm an Igbo man. I don't want anybody to vote for me because I'm an Igbo man. Yes, don't do that. I am qualified to be president of Nigeria.
Yes.
I have the record to be president of Nigeria. My engagement is not for my tribe. We need their unity. We need to be together. We need to live together as a people. Let me tell you, there's actually division all over the world, even the UK here. A Welsh person, a Scottish person, doesn't entirely agree with English.
Yes.
However, because they have an economy and the sons are working, it becomes their center of things. So nobody, so back of England is having a problem. They went to Canada, brought somebody to come and become a back of England. That's how it works. Because of a place where people are manipulating their tribe and using it as a means, as their certificate. So if you tell Peter, where is your degree certificate? You say, I'm an Igbo man. That's why they're asking me. If I was this, would they ask me? But they're talking about certificate. They're not talking about the tribe. If you tell me they're not doing well, or you stealing money, He says only the Igbo man can arrest him. They didn't arrest the other man. Is any place they are going to arrest you for stealing? Say they didn't arrest the Scottish person. They start dealing with you for until they get Scottish. In my place, you will even see people. It happened to me, saying let's go and protest for arresting Peter. And he said, what is Peter doing? The evidence Peter stole public money. And he's quarreled with it. If they have arrested Peter about his own money, it's a different thing. But here is record. So, to unite Nigeria, my brother, is to educate Nigeria. If we have a leader with a purpose, who would run the country effectively? If we have a country where people's talent and hard work will match up the opportunity, unity becomes reinforced. Because I'm not competing with other people. I live here. Dovey was a high commissioner when I lived here. We became close. Because I can tell you, straight away, people came out one day, called us meeting, and people were talking about discrimination, racism, this and that. And he was vice chancellor of the University of Ibadan. The talk was Henry Joko, and he was vice chancellor of the University of Lagos. So you could see, we used to be in the nation. All of a sudden, because incompetence have took over, and to sustain it, we start dividing ourselves. Compassion is given in society. There is no leadership without compassion. Any leadership without compassion is not leadership. A leader lives and thinks every day compassionately on how to build a society, how to make it work for everyone. That's what leadership is all about. And you need it as an ingredient of thinking, why am I going to do this? That's why they said, unexamined life is not worth it.